Ever wonder how one goddess became so powerful that every other Egyptian deity was eventually seen as just an aspect of her? Meet Isis, or as the ancient Egyptians called her, Aset, the queen of the throne, who went from being a mortal woman to the most worshipped deity in all of Egypt. Her story? It's a wild journey of love, loss, magic, and ultimate power. So buckle up, because we're diving deep into the fascinating world of ancient Egypt's most beloved goddess. Here's the thing. Nobody really knows where Isis worship actually started. Some scholars think she came from the Sinai region, while others believe she first appeared in the Nile Delta, specifically around Osiris. Interesting, right? That's the same area where Osiris had his first cult center. But what made her name so special? The Greeks called her Isis, but her Egyptian name, Aset, literally means of the throne, or queen of the throne. Now, get this. There's actually debate about what her name truly signifies. The historian Plutarch thought it meant knowledge, but some believe it could mean of flesh, or mortal. Wait, mortal? Yes! This suggests she might have actually been a human woman before becoming the queen of the gods. According to the Ennead myths, Isis and her husband Osiris actually ruled Egypt as mortal monarchs before the pharaohs even existed. Mind-blowing, isn't it? So how did Isis become the supreme goddess of Egypt? Her initial symbol was an empty throne, worn as a headdress, making her the literal personification of royal power. As the embodiment of the throne itself, she was the key source of every pharaoh's authority. Over time, something extraordinary happened. She became so overwhelmingly popular that all other Egyptian gods were eventually viewed as mere aspects of Isis herself. Think about that for a second. She became the only deity that everyone across the entire kingdom worshipped. Remember the Theban triad of Amun, Mut, and Khons? They used to be the most popular divine family in Egypt. But they got replaced by a new power trio, the Abydos triad, consisting of Osiris, Isis, and their son Horus. Her cult started small in the Nile Delta, with her main temple at Beit el-Hagar, but eventually spread to every corner of Egypt. Here's where things get really interesting. Isis wasn't just worshipped in one form. She had countless names, titles, and appearances. She was called Hent in every nome, and she embodied characteristics of many other goddesses, which made the divine hierarchy pretty complicated. Picture this. Sometimes she appeared as a winged goddess, or a kite, one of her sacred animals. In this form, her wings spread wonderful fragrances across Egypt and brought fresh air to the underworld itself. She also wore the vulture headdress from the New Kingdom, decorated with cow horns flanking a sun disk. Sometimes she was depicted as a cow or a woman with a cow's head. And as the snake goddess Thermuthis, she appeared as a cobra wearing a throne on her head. Her divine family tree was equally complex. She was the daughter of Geb, earth, and Nut, sky, sister and wife to Osiris, and sister to Set, Nephthys, and Horus the Elder. Because of her connection to Egypt's throne, she was sometimes considered the wife of Horus the Elder, the patron of living pharaohs. Through associations with Ra and Horus, and her links to Hathor, she could even be seen as the wife of Ra himself. But wait, there's more to Isis than just divine politics. The Egyptians valued family above almost everything, and Isis represented the absolute ideal of motherhood. Throughout the New Kingdom, she was the goddess of childbirth and motherhood. The imagery of Isis nursing baby Horus became one of the most famous images in Egyptian art. Sound familiar? Most scholars agree this directly influenced how early Christians depicted Mary with baby Jesus. But here's the key difference. While Mary was often portrayed as a passive vessel, Isis was a triple threat: a devoted mother, a skilled and powerful queen, and an incredibly powerful sorceress. According to the Book of the Dead, she was described as she who gives birth to heaven and earth, knows the orphan, knows the widow, seeks justice for the poor, and shelter for the weak. This wasn't just some distant goddess. She was a protector of the vulnerable and champion of justice. Now, let me tell you the heart-wrenching legend that made Isis immortal in Egyptian hearts. When Ra created the world, his beloved grandson Osiris became Egypt's first pharaoh, ruling happily alongside his true love, Isis, and their son Horus. But Osiris's brother Set? He was consumed by jealousy. Why should Osiris be pharaoh and not him? In his rage, Set murdered Osiris, cut him into pieces, and scattered them in the Nile River. When Isis discovered what happened, she searched tirelessly and collected every piece of her beloved husband. With help from her friend Anubis, the jackal-headed god, they reassembled Osiris. But Anubis couldn't bring him back to life for the mortal world. So Ra gave Osiris a new role, god of the dead, ruling over the afterlife. Young Horus eventually avenged his father by defeating Set, but Osiris would remain forever in the land of the dead, separated from his beloved Isis. And here's the beautiful part. Since that tragic day, Isis goes to the riverbed once a year to weep for her lost love. Her tears? They cause the Nile to rise and flood, bringing life to all the plants and animals along its banks. Even in her eternal grief, Isis continues to nurture and sustain all of Egypt. That's the power of Isis, a goddess whose love literally brings life to an entire civilization.